We want to start out with a little bit of very alarming video from Dayton, Ohio. This was Donald Trump's rally last night, and we all want you to be very outraged by this piece of sound that we're about to show you right now.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole... That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
Okay, so there is the piece of sounds that Biden-Harris HQ really seized upon. Trump, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. Keith Olbermann chimes in. This is a terrorist threat, FBI. Detain him as he leaves the stage, after which America doesn't give a shit where you keep him. Here's Joe Scarborough. Donald Trump's America, and he is proud of it, promised another bloodbath if he loses again. Here's Lawrence Tribe. This is a Harvard professor, by the way. Harvard professor. Heads I win.
Yeah, that don't be what it used to.
Yeah. Tails I lead a bloodthirsty mob. Nice little country you've got there. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. Now, Harvard professor, he knows how to read. He knows how to put quotes in context, right? Surely he wouldn't be taking the quote out of context. Let's see the full context of this quote. I'm sure it will corroborate their story.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Lawrence Tribe contend that the Colorado case had legal merit to kick Trump off the ballot?
That would not surprise me at all. I'm not sure, but certainly seems like a take of his. Anyway, let's see his reading comprehension skills at work. Let's check the full context here. I'm sure he got it right, Harvard man that he is.
China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. Now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole... That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine, all he does is build car manufacturing plants. He's the biggest in the world.
Well, it's okay. So it sounds to me like he wasn't really threatening a bloody revolution. Sounds to me like
talking
bloodbath.
About economics. Yeah,
we're gonna take it in the ass economically. Right. Is basically what
which is a very common context in which to use that term. They use that on Wall Street all the time. It was It was a bloodbath on Wall Street today. It's very common to use that in an economic context specifically. It's not even like a weird usage of that word.
Even in a political context, how many times did we hear heading into the 2018 midterms? Well, it's going to be a bloodbath. The 2022 midterms. Oh, it's going to be a bloodbath for Democrats this year. Yeah,
it's not like he said, if we don't get this deal, it's going to be shiny black boots for everyone. I tell you.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
That would be a little odd.
That would be a little alarming. Yes, then you'd have a point. Here's the Biden-Harris campaign statement on Trump promising bloodbath if he loses.
These fucking people.
It's really insane. Tonight, Donald Trump said there would be a bloodbath if he wasn't elected, and that if he lost, there would be no more elections. After opening the general election by meeting with authoritarian leaders, I guess he's talking about Viktor Orban, and rallying alongside conspiracy
Member of NATO,
theorists.
Viktor Orban, you mean?
Yeah, NATO ally Viktor Orban. Donald Trump continues to praise dictators, promise to pardon political violence, and launch racist attacks against black and brown Americans. What racist attack did he launch against black and brown Americans?
Which ones? I mean, I could pull up a lot of clips of Joe Biden launching racist attacks against black and brown Americans.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything recently. Not to say he's never said anything, but what in this campaign? Was there a new thing I missed? Maybe. I don't know. It's why last night, Trump's own former Vice President, Mike Pence, who Trump supporters called to hang for not overturning the election, came out against Trump. This is who Donald Trump is, a loser who gets beat by over 7 million votes, and instead of appealing to a wider mainstream audience, doubles down on threats of political violence. He wants another January 6th. Well, he doesn't want another January 6th. I'm sure he'd rather just win. But the American people are going to give him another electoral defeat this November. Don't count on it, because they continue to reject his extremism, his affection for violence, and his thirst for revenge. So that's the official campaign statement. We saw the context here, but Politico. Trump says country faces bloodbath if Biden wins in November. Let's read a little bit of this here. Donald Trump on Saturday said it will be a bloodbath for the United States if he doesn't win in November. Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath. That's going to be the least of it, Trump said during a rally near Dayton, Ohio. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. This is my highlighting here. While it was unclear what the former president meant exactly, the remarks came as Trump was complaining about the automobile industry. He then returned
that's what you call plausible deniability. You see, right. we mentioned the context.
We didn't exactly know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't exactly know what he meant. I mean, we're putting that in there. We're not hiding that. But look at this. So he says, while it was unclear what the former president meant exactly, the remark came as Trump was complaining about the automobile industry. He then returned to telling the crowd that China would not be able to sell any vehicles imported into the United States if he wins re-election. He returned to telling the crowd.
Yes.
As if
this was a non sequitur.
Exactly.
In the middle of that speech.
As if he was talking about cars in China, and then he took a quick detour. Oh, by the way, if I don't win, there's going to be violence in the country. Anyway, now back to my point about China. No, the bloodbath was part of the point about China and the cars. But they say he then returned to telling the crowd that China would not be able to sell any vehicles imported into the U.S. And then, obviously, they flesh this out. This is barking at the moon. Trump frequently paints a dark picture of the country as he lays out his case against President Joe Biden. Yeah, we don't need to read the rest of that. You get the point.
And then they're going to go on the air and they're going to wring their hands about why the public doesn't trust them and why it lands when Trump calls them the enemy of the people. Oh, we're journalists. We're out there reporting the truth, and people are just, it's the education system. It's TV. It's the internet. It's fucking you. It's